MJF is back, and that'll be our top topic here as we not only talk about AEW Dynamite, but live watch the AEW Collision third hour with the Dynamite Diamond Ring Battle Royal going on right now. It's a mouthful. JB, what did you think of MJF's return? The idea of it, and then the execution of it is, obviously focused mostly on MJF on the microphone. But what do you think about adding him to the match and having him cash in his title shot?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly thought it was a pretty interesting decision. I was expecting to make his return at World's End next weekend, but it was a bit of a surprise. I figured he might be involved maybe tonight to a certain capacity because of the Diamond Ring Battle Royal. But yeah, kind of coming in early and adding.
It's a Diamond Dallas Page Rumble.
Yeah, the Diamond Ring. Yeah, I mean,
yeah, I know it's funny.
It's still going on right now, but yeah, I think that it struck me as it's a bit of a face move. So it's interesting to kind of return. I know that maybe they're in England, so maybe they're expecting maybe a bit of a different reaction and kind of wanted that excitement. But yeah, I don't hate it. I do enjoy kind of MJF being part of this process, and it adds a little bit more spice that I think helps to a certain extent. But I would say I was surprised at how he returned to a certain extent as well. So.
Yeah, so I think, and it's funny because it's coincidental, I guess. Zach Gaydorn joined me earlier today, and we recorded a Wade Keller Pro Wrestling Podcast special mailbag episode. We haven't done one of those dedicated email shows in a while, but we just got so many emails, and Rich Fan and I on the flagship had so much to talk about with Cena and Austin Theory and more. So Mick Foley. So we didn't end up Mick Foley denouncing his association with WWE. Nothing happened bad to Foley. I want to be clear for people out of the loop on that. So we had so many topics covered. We just didn't get to emails. I'm like, well, we have enough. Let's do a separate show. And one of the questions was about MJF and the pros and cons of him coming back tonight versus at the pay-per-view or not at all. And one of the points we discussed is just Swerve and Hangman are two baby faces against Samoa Joe as a heel. Joe's a kind of light heel, but I think he's done a good job turning fans against him. Even the AEW, ardent fans, hardcore fans who respect his body of work, but he's been enough of a jerk to boo him. But it is a 2-on-1 situation, two baby faces and a heel. It's always better to have two heels and a face, or almost always, or a tweener if you want those, or two heels and a face to at least create a disadvantage. So MJF changes that. He made it clear he's not with Joe, so it's not like they're going to work together. But at least Joe isn't at a disadvantage against two baby faces. However, Tony Khan might argue, well, Hangman and Swerve say they're friends, but they've been through hell and back against each other. Who knows if they can get along? It's not really that much of an advantage. Overall, though, I do think this adds an element of sort of fairness for Joe. So people don't have sympathy for him as a champion facing two top contenders who likely are not going to go after each other. They're going to focus on Joe. So that's the positive. The negative is, we're 10 days out. It's not a lot of time for MJF to reintegrate himself and to get a full-fledged storyline going. They don't want to mess around with a reveal next week on Christmas Eve or Christmas with Dynamite and Collision that they're taping this weekend at Hammerstein. If I have it right, the whole schedule is like confusing, I think, for the average person. I think I've got it worked out now. And so they had to introduce it. The good part is MJF has a backstory, and they gave him plenty of mic time to remind us of his backstory with each of those wrestlers and the world title. I think they did enough on this show where I don't know that they would have benefited from having an extra week or two to let him integrate himself more. I think I'm okay with it, and I think it gives a boost to a pay-per-view that might have gotten a little lost in the mix. Even with Swerve returning at the last pay-per-view, in that sort of fresh, anything with Hangman and Swerve to me feels like, okay, we're still doing that. I think some people would say that. So this does add something. I think it's a good move, and I endorse it, having seen it tonight. How about you?
Yeah, I agree. I endorse it overall, and honestly, the segment in general, I did enjoy the interactions and the kind of different, how everyone was able to play off each other in, I think, the correct way to a certain extent as well. So I enjoyed, Swerve kind of made it just about the championship, which I enjoyed. Joe could have been a little bit more methodical, I think, in his approach, but I did like how Hangman took us on the journey that he's been through this year and kind of the hurt of it being suddenly derailed and what that means to him. And then, subsequently, the MJF cash in, he kind of did his, roast of each person to which, is the MJF bit, which, the mileage kind of varies on that too, But ultimately, I think it worked. Maybe this segment ran a little bit too long, but ultimately, I do think it increases interest in World's End. I think there's a lot of different directions they could potentially go as well. So.
Yeah. So let's talk about the length of this segment. Let's see. We've got a chat comment here. I'll pull it up and read it. From Hermassage one. I hope probably saying that wrong. A segment went 5 minutes heavy, but reminded wrestling fans of how valuable MJF can be.
Yeah.
That was my sentiment. I mean, I probably with 2 minutes left, I was like, okay, what would I have cut? Like that started going through my mind. What could we have trimmed? I know some people didn't like the reference to WWE. I'll throw it up. Mitchell says, Mitchell Baby Boy is his new moniker here. I understand MJF wanted to provide backstory on his past relationship with Swerve and their different career paths, but why mention WWE just to generate some cheap heat? I get that fan blast ads regarding that. I admire Tony Khan's lack of insecurity to strongly book MJF, even though he openly flirts with WWE, and I will absolutely go there when he can. Yeah, so what would you have cut? Like the P. Diddy thing?
I was going to mention that as well.
Maybe that worked. Mitchell says MJF eviscerated Paige Jones Swerve on the mic, even though his P. Diddy joke fell absolutely flat. So yeah, talk about what you might have cut, or elaborate on that.
Yeah, I was actually going to specifically mention the P. Diddy aspect. And maybe just kind of, I don't necessarily have anything particular, but there were a few kind of low-hanging lines that, MJF is known to do over time.
Yeah.
However, I think I agree with the first comment, and there's obviously a lot of value in having MJF because not everyone can carry a segment like that. And, he did carry it. It didn't feel like, oh my God, can this just get over with? But it was like, maybe in hindsight, there's a few things I would have cut as well. So yeah, there's a lot of value in having MJF back, but he could be maybe reined in a little bit more, as I think we've said throughout his entire AEW tenure. But ultimately, I would give through a hit list. I'd give the segment a hit. So,
yeah, I would too. I mean, it would be nice to get through an MJF promo where you're not going really good, but exactly. I think though we avoided yelling and overmodulation. That was good, and I think he had some good lines. I think the thing with MJF is it just sometimes looks like he's just casting multiple fishing lines, trying to find something that's going to go viral. Joe, your tattoo from 2007, your temporary tattoo. Yeah. There's it sometimes just cut a promo about the match and don't try to have a zinger or an obscure. We used to have, and this goes back 25 years when we first launched the website, pwtorch.com. We did a Torch Today news update. This is, kind of pre-social media taking over a lot of little things. And we'd have our obscure wrestling reference of the day. And this was when wrestling wasn't really mainstream enough, where there were a lot of mainstream references. So anytime pro wrestling got mentioned outside of a circle of pro wrestling fans or on a pro wrestling show, it was actually newsworthy, which is kind of crazy to think of now with all the wrestling coverage that's out there, with all the SEO, web revenue stories, AI written now, a lot of them. And it just feels like MJF is like the master. He grew up with that. Obscure wrestling references. Let's throw out or obscure celebrity references. And, I don't know. I mean, it plays to a certain part of the audience, and some of them work. I guess maybe MJF needs just a panel of like 2 or 3 trusted people to go, nah, let's not do this one.
Agree. Yeah. And I get maybe the dynamics a little bit different tonight because it's with 3 other people, and, there has, they probably wanted it to go a certain length, and you have to be able to play off everyone in a different way. So it's a little bit different than a traditional MJF overindulgence. But, it's still there as we're talking about right now. So
I would never advocate for keeping a star on TV unnaturally long in order to have more minute-by-minute segments that draw. Yeah. I think that is like so. I'm trying to think of the term I want. It's focused on something very little that you pay a bigger price for. You want your top stars to always have. You want them to not overstay their welcome. I mean, you want every minute to count. And if they're just filling time, and I mean this for a match too, like you don't need your star to wrestle an extra 8 minutes if the fans are like, well, why did it take him so long to win? Or that kind of felt like filler. Just have a punch to what you do. And the little minute by minute average pulling down your ratings slightly, that doesn't matter in the big picture as much as making sure your stars are featured in the best possible light. And sometimes with MJF, short is better. Now, I think what we're doing here though is there's a little bit of baggage with MJF, and we're talking about something that really wasn't super applicable tonight. Yes. But it went just long enough to make it a topic to talk about tonight.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. Like you said, it wasn't bad tonight. Like absolutely.
Yeah.
Honestly, like you said, if it didn't exist in the past, I probably maybe wouldn't even necessarily thought about it. But like you said, it does exist. It's not something we can take away at this point. So you're always going to hold MJF to that standard until he eliminates it for a certain period of time. So
Fan Blast says maybe it's just me, but these edgy promos from MJF don't move me anymore. I mean that's what we're getting at. Just kind of fishing for the edgy line that's going to get a buzz on online. It's just like stay offline, be proud of your promo, go to bed, read a book. Don't like try to go for that ephemeral dopamine rush of social media is talking about something that they can't believe I got away saying on TV. I just don't think that's what big money players have ever done in wrestling history. And MJF's a big money player. He should think bigger than some satisfaction he gets out of, they're talking about me tonight on Twitter X or whatever. And it does seem like he searches for that to the detriment of the masses watching him on TV. Anyway, don't want to dwell on that.
To be fair, I think he did hit enough on the title tonight too, where it wasn't just all zingers and things like that. There was some meat to the content, but
that's the part. That's actually, I'm glad you said, because the content about the championship, that was the focus. And again, this is more just the trail of the baggage with MJF, and it's showing up a little bit here. But it actually, the point is when he talked about the championship being important, that's when he's at his best. The title means everything, and here's why I'm going to beat you. Here's why I'm going to beat you. Here's why it's going to be easy to beat you. I mean, I like that he addressed each of them individually. I didn't think he belabored that. It doesn't mean that cutting, and I don't think 5 minutes. I think cutting 5 minutes is overstating it as in the chat. But I think cutting a minute or two off just would have tightened it up, and we wouldn't even have crossed our minds to be having this conversation. Next up is his haircut, his hairstyle. Mitchell says, I guess MJF used his time wisely. He visited Turkey to get some hair plugs.
I was noticing that a little bit as well. Yeah,
it was a new look.
Joe's hair today too. So
he did what?
He mentioned Joe's hair too, hairline. And
the receding hairline.
Here's the story. So
that's a very heelish thing to say. The hypocrite. Pick on someone else for something that you've dealt with. So to me, it kind of looked like what CM Punk is doing, growing out his hair and slicking it back. So it's like he's grown it out and slicking it back. It's interesting. It felt like a filtered or an artist rendition of MJF from somebody who didn't get it quite right. He looked like a animation that wasn't quite MJF, but you could tell it was him. And so I got to get used to it. I'm not saying it's a bad look. It just didn't feel like MJF, but I'm fine changing your look. I don't have a problem with it. I just got to adjust to it. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. It is something I noticed for sure. It looked almost like he just almost got kind of got out of the shower and didn't fully dry off and he put product in or something like that. Yeah. But maybe it's a little rough the first week back. We'll see if there's any adjustments. But I didn't hate it, but it was definitely something I noticed relatively quickly too. So
yeah. We got a OG Torch reader, GWF ESPN, who goes, I sent an obscure wrestling reference to the Torch in 1995. Those were great. Awesome. So Mitchell adds, let me bring this up here. MJF level set the segment, even though it went long. I value storyline and character development versus having 15 to 20 minute promos for the sake of having a great match. I really think this is an important comment. Hermes AJ says, one thing I especially appreciate is that MJF always carries himself as a star, even sometimes bigger than his actual place. That's such a big deal. It was one of the criticisms of Kenny Omega early on. I'll just pull that old one out, a criticism of Kenny, where it looked like he just went to the gym, didn't shower, didn't change. The same clothes he woke up in, he went to the gym in, and then he showed up and went on TV in them. He didn't work hard to look like a star. And I don't think that was a deliberate choice to be the guy who can't be bothered. It just looked like he couldn't be bothered. MJF knows the value of his character should, but he knows the value of looking and acting and carrying himself like a star. And he did tonight. I mean, he wants to look, and I think he succeeds. He wants to come out and look like a guy who is the biggest star on the show, or no one's a bigger star than him. And so much of that is dressing for the part and carrying himself a certain way. And obviously speaking with confidence, which he has no problem with. JB, your thoughts on that overall presentation?
Yeah, I mean, whenever he's present, you feel his presence, and I think that's intentional. That's something that everyone has either, as we know that's kind of sometimes it's an innate trait, and MJF has that aspect, and I think that's typically honestly what sets him apart. Why he's widely considered a valuable star. That's number one on my list, at least. And it's really recognizable too. I think even the average, like even my wife, who's really not a fan of wrestling at all, I mean, it's noticed before in the past. So,
yep. Also, before MJF came out, Hermes points out, and part of the length of the promo was pre-MJF was a little clunky. Yeah, everybody took their turns talking. I think you ought to. It's the centerpiece segment for a pay-per-view main event with the world title on the line. It's your last chance to do it. That isn't a holiday. I'm fine with the length of it. I didn't think it was great, but I thought it was all right. What'd you think?
As far as
the Joe, Hangman, and Swerve all talking before MJF came
out. No, I think I like that setup in the sense that I do like the surprise aspect of MJF and the pop it got. I think it was worth it to kind of set up with the three prior, and it made sense because they're the ones with the kind of a casual relationship with the championship right now, and MJF's kind of coming in on that. So it made sense that he'd kind of insert himself, and I think that's the heel aspect of what's going on right now and what's going to carry over to World's End. So I was really okay with that, and I actually like the way they set it up. Maybe it was a little bit clunky in how they've said a lot of what they're going to say already to a certain extent, so maybe a little bit of that was repeated. But outside that, I actually like the way they set it up. So,
Adam Kidd says Hangman has such a strange cadence sometimes it takes me out of what he's saying. GWF ESPN says MJF reminds me so much in some ways of Gino Hernandez when he was at his best, going back to the mid '80s. I suggest people check it out on YouTube. The dynamic duo in world-class championship wrestling, Gino Hernandez and Chris Adams as a heel duo. Fantastic. I mean, just like Gino was great. And I get the comparison there. Because Gino dressed the part, looked like a star, had a cockiness to him. I think that's and I think there's a number of people who can compare MJF to. Roddy Piper. I think there's some Eddie Gilbert, prime heel Eddie Gilbert, but Gino Hernandez works too. Anyone else come to mind, JB? I like blending multiple wrestlers from different eras to kind of say, yeah, they're a blend of these people from different eras.
I think if you asked him in general, I think he would want to be recognized as Roddy Piper. It seems like he kind of, idolized him, and he mentions him a lot in kind of interviews and things of that nature. So I think he tries to take, bits of that character and kind of molds into his own as well. And I think he does a decent job of that. So,
Mitchell says MJF always conducts himself like a star back in the old territory days. Harley Race in Kansas City, Nick Bockwinkel in the Midwest, and Ric Flair anywhere. When you say who does MJF remind you of, it's a well-dressed, top tier heel who looks like he lives a rich life because he's succeeding greatly at pro wrestling, and there's value in that. And Harley Race, Nick Bockwinkel, and Ric Flair are good examples.
And they're totally different characters, but maybe more contemporary model actually is Cody, who they've actually interacted in the past as well. I mean, the dressed part, the cocky. I mean, I don't know, cockiness might be over extreme. Yeah, but I think even Cody carries a certain level of cockiness, but it's maybe just comes across as more appealing than MJF's. But I would say there's a comparison there. So,
yeah. All right. GWF ESPN says Kyle O'Reilly is the inverse MJF. I'm going to take him seriously. And then he runs out in Walmart jeans and a radio t-shirt looking like someone who just woke him up from a nap. It almost felt like that was meant to be a feature, not a flaw, that Kyle looked like he had bedhead. I'm not sure what he was going for, but it does seem like things kind of have shifted a little. And he's trying to be a little bit different now. So. Yeah.
I don't think Kyle O'Reilly is MJF, though. I don't think that's just the character he is. I don't think he has that ceiling regardless. I think that works for him for what they're looking to do. I mean, I'm cool with giving him the kind of level push that they're giving him right now. I think there's value in kind of being, where he's level set at, going into 2026. So,
yeah. All right. Finally, on the MJF topic, Adam Kidd says, so MJF is winning, correct? I don't think that's a bad way to end the year and start off the new year. It would explain Joe getting the title back.
Yes. As I was gonna say.
And and not spending a title, not giving Hangman or Swerve what would amount to a transitional title reign. They can afford to do it with Joe. And you're not also spending MJF beating someone who's already top tier. You're kind of closing out the year through the holidays, Continental Classic. This kind of I won't call it a down period, just a non-prime period storyline wise, when you're going to bring out your big matches. You want to keep things interesting in other ways, and I think they found that with the annual Continental Classic for sure, and the Dynamite Diamond Battle Royal is a little extra too. The women's tag tournament is going on. So you get Joe, you make him champ. I think he's baseline fine, but you get the belt to MJF, and then you've got a heel set up with Hangman, Swerve, a returning Ospreay, maybe Kenny Omega, maybe a returning Darby. Like, there's a lot of baby faces. It does feel like a company that ought to have a top centerpiece heel as world champion going into the new year based on the lay of the land. And you also have perhaps Takeshita turning babyface, or maybe Okada, whatever. We don't assume anything. Maybe we can. Anyway, your thoughts?
Yeah, no, agreed. I think exactly what I put in my notes basically is that now makes a lot more sense. And it does seem like they had a plan for Joe being that transitional champion. Like you said, you can spend that. He's 47 years old at this point. It is probably good to give him one last run. Honestly, I have no problem with that. But yeah, it makes a lot of sense. He's the gatekeeper to MJF, and then you could spin MJF off to Hangman or Swerve again potentially, or like you said, maybe someone else, either returning or rising up a little bit in the rankings as well. So I do think there's value in that, and no problem with that. I mean, at least it makes sense. They had a plan, and it looks like they stuck to it as well. So.
Very good. Well, let's pause and formally introduce the show, and then we got Rude Dog on hold. We'll bring him onto the program, and then cover some other topics from tonight's show, and also make mention of some things going on in the background on Collision. This is the Wade Keller Pro Wrestling Post Show for Wednesday, December 17th, 2025. I'm Wade Keller, host of the show, the editor, publisher, and founder of the long-running Pro Wrestling Torch Weekly newsletter. Here's today's copy, hot off the presses. John Cena tapping out Gunther. We got a page 10 column, as usual, by Greg Parks, looking at John Cena's retirement year. We have a column from Rich Fan in here, looking at the dynamic of AEW and ROH. A lot of good exclusive content in the newsletter. You can subscribe to the paper copy and go analog, as some people are doing these days, in frustration with some of the digital life stuff being taken away, and enjoy going to your mailbox, not just for Christmas cards in December, but year-round. You can also get a digital PDF or all text copy of it with a VIP membership. This is our last time plugging the sale. I'll just throw the banner up and keep it short because you've probably heard it before, but we do have a $9 discount going on. So that brings a $12.99 monthly sub down to $3.99. You can unlock nearly 4 decades of VIP content, hundreds of retro radio shows from the 90s, wrestling history covered contemporaneously since the late 1980s, along with VIP exclusive content, including the Wade Keller News Bulletins, a new VIP feature, in a one-page PDF, landscape view, looks good on your laptop or your tablet, an all-text version if you want to read it on your phone, and a podcast version where I read it and add little asides here and there also. It runs about 15 to 20 minutes. I'm at 2 to 3 times a week right now. I'm aiming to do more than that post-holidays. We'll see how that goes. It's kind of driven by news, too, along with my schedule. But it's been a real popular feature, a new edition, getting my take. It's formatted with a top story, and then a news and notes column, and then also endnotes, which has been around for decades in the newsletter, where I do random thoughts on just whatever's on my mind. It doesn't have to be a huge topic. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's small stuff. But it's a fun format. It's a way to keep up on wrestling without having to refresh social media or go to a bunch of SEO AI-written websites. You got hopefully a trusted source giving you not only a review of the top things happening, but also my take on what's happening with commentary and a perspective on it. So lots of VIP content. Full details, pwtorch.com/govip. Take $9 off a 1-month, 3-month, or 1-year sub. The sale ends this week. So if you've been putting it off for any reason or just hearing about it now for the first time, welcome. Sign up. We'd love to have you. We'll throw that banner up later, too, as a reminder, probably. But we're here to talk AEW Dynamite. And making his debut is a familiar name. JB from Detroit sends great emails. I almost always get to them, JB. Jerud Buhagiar is my co-host. He writes AEW PPV Previews for PWTorch. He is an official contributor, and he is eligible, and I'm excited to have him on here as a co-host making his debut. JB, great job so far. Good to have you here. I'm excited. I always enjoy your emails. You always bring great stuff up and stir conversation. So to have you for the full show in person, as in person as Renee Paquette was tonight. Actually, more in person because we can see your face. You don't sound like a voicemail, as Sean Radican texted me and said, did she just voicemail that on a phone? Good to have you here.
Yep. No, thank you, Wade. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate it. And really enjoyed the Torch community who, I've interacted with in various ways for, at least a decade now. I've been listening to Torch since before that, but more active for about the better part of a decade now. So,
awesome.
Yeah, really, not a ton of friends that are wrestling fans. So this is kind of where I bounce my ideas off of and things of that nature as well. So I'm really excited about the opportunity.
Yeah, it's great. Love the community. It's such a great group of people. The chat, I think, reflects that. I'm so proud of the group of contributors we have doing great writing on the website. And I believe people who can really put their thoughts on paper and put time into it turn out to be good audio analysts too. And that has consistently been the case. And so that is how we kind of do things and always have. And it's great to have you here in the mix, being able to give extended thoughts on things. Give people, since it is your first time, a little bit more background on how long you've been a fan, what pulled you in as a fan, and what drives you to remain a fan.
Yeah, I'd say I probably got into wrestling when I was fairly young in probably the mid '90s, and then pretty much stayed with wrestling primarily with WCW and WWF, WWE until probably like Dr. Thugonomics John Cena. Then I probably took a break until honestly probably 10 years at that point, but probably till I was in and out and I would pay attention to the Torch and things of that nature, but I definitely wasn't regularly watching. And then I think back in 2015, I was flipping through TV and I think I saw a New Day segment or something and stuck around, and then kind of got back into the Torch really strongly. Then I think that's what's really kept me in things. And then the introduction of AEW, because there was some lean times with WWE where it was hard, getting hard for me to watch. And I've become probably a loyal AEWist since then, and I still peripherally pay attention to WWE as well, but since they moved to Netflix, I've kind of lost a little bit of interest in the product and been kind of mostly paying attention through the Torch as well as online clips and stuff like that, but not really full-time watching. But yeah, that's a high level, on me. Definitely a wrestling fan and enthusiast for a long time now, and the Torch has really kind of kept me in it. So
that's great to hear. I love it. Thank you. Yeah. Cool. Well, let's just let people know if you're watching us live, and we are doing our live watch of Collision. Kind of peripherally keeping an eye on things on the Collision side of things. We had the Dynamite Diamond Battle Royal, which comes down to 2 wrestlers, and we have a match set up here with Ricochet and Bandito, which will be happening next week on Dynamite to determine who wins the Diamond Ring. So I didn't get to keep a super close eye on the Battle Royal, but enough to see. I don't think anything else too major happened, but check out pwtorch.com. Joshua White's covering it, by the way, and doing a written report on the website. He's our Collision reporter, and he'll have that going on pwtorch.com. So if you missed it or you're keeping an eye on our show here and missing the show, you can catch up there. Always encourage you to check out pwtorch.com to just catch up on things you can't see. And also, in the case of Raw, Dynamite, and SmackDown, I not only cover the shows I write them for people who aren't seeing the show, but I also add analysis and context and quips for people who are watching the show. So if you want to peel away from a bunch of random people on social media and see what I'm saying, open up a tab on your phone or laptop or tablet and check out my reports at PWTorch. And same with our team of TV reporters who cover NXT, Impact, Collision, and on and on. So you can join us if you're watching us live here on YouTube in the chat. We've mentioned that. We've already put some people up on there. You're invited to join in the chat. Another way you can join us is by email, as JB often does, Wade Keller postshow@gmail.com. If you have questions or comments that you want us to read on the air, that's especially great if you don't watch the show, our YouTube show live, but you're listening on the podcast side of things, which is where the vast majority of people are listening to us, is on delay. We're on late at night, and we have a huge history of podcasting, so that's where most people are. So if you're one of those people, but you still want to get your thoughts on, that's the way to do it. And then finally, you can email, you can join us as a caller, video caller, or just turn off your camera and be an audio caller like our Blog Talk Radio call-in days. And that's what Rude Dog is about to do, be our video caller and contribute that way. So lots of ways to contribute to the show. Those are the main ways. I do want to note, anytime that you want to be part of the Wade Keller podcast flagship, or as is the case this week, a whole dedicated 90-minute show answering email questions, Wade Keller podcast @gmail.com is the email. And so you can send to Wade Keller Post Show and Wade Keller Podcast @gmail. And anytime during the week, and we'll just mark them for the flagship or the mailbag and get to them whenever we record. So that is an open invite for all of you. All right. We got a lot more to talk about, but let's bring Rude Dog on so he doesn't have to wait any longer. Rude Dog, welcome. Good to have you on the show. What's on your mind about Dynamite tonight and what you've seen at Collision so far? We can't hear you, and I don't think I muted you. You are muted, Rude Dog. Rude Dog is unmuting himself I'm seeing how dusty your ceiling fan is. Whenever I see a ceiling fan, I always look for dust.
Sorry about that. Yeah.
No problem. I'm entertained.
Need some dusting.
Yeah.
But anyways, glad you can hear me now. And watch out, Wade. It looks like you have 2 Detroit Lions fans on the line with you right now. So.
Oh no. Yeah. Zach and I were talking about how big of a deal the Bears-Lions game could be.
Straight up. Yeah.
Biggest Bears-Lions game ever, because the Lions have been so bad for so long, and the Bears, when they're good, the Lions haven't been. I mean, I'm happy for those two markets. It's especially because it's not Green Bay. So,
yeah. Well, we're going to need you to beat the Packers and take a fall on Christmas. That would be very helpful. So, if you could do that.
We beat the Packers, and who are we playing on Christmas? Oh, is it
Lions.
Chicago?
The Lions.
Oh, Unions losing. Yeah, of course that makes
Yeah.
sense. Yes. Well, we were very good at losing the Lions last year in the last game of the season, which I am still very sad about, because had they won, we might still have Sam. I always want to say Sam Bradford, because that was another Sam.
Oh, Sam Darnold.
Sam Darnold. Yeah, he might still be our quarterback if we had won some playoff games with him, but he sucked the last game of the season in the playoffs, so it was easier to cut him loose.
He looks good with Seattle all of a sudden too. So
well, he's in his prime. I mean, he's got years left to be great. Although that said, I'm happy with our JJ McCarthy. I mean,
I'm a JJ McCarthy. I'm a big JJ McCarthy. I'm a University of Michigan graduate myself.
Really?
So I'm rooting for JJ McCarthy when it doesn't affect the Lions. So he's looked actually good the last 2 weeks. So
yeah, he has. Yeah, Vikings aren't going to make the playoffs every year, and frankly, and not to get too down this rabbit hole, Rude Dog, but I am kind of relieved the Vikings aren't going to be in the playoffs, because I just get anxiety over it, because it sucks losing in the playoffs when you have a really good team. And there's this weird, and I mean, ultimately I'd rather have them winning, of course, but it's offset by relief. I don't have to have anxiety over losing in the playoffs, and I don't want you guys to feel that way. But at the same time, the Bears fans have been through that too. So, but you guys have been through it more lately.
Yeah. Maybe Super Bowl someday, but I digress. So
yeah, that's the thing. Even just super. Yeah. All right. All right. Go ahead, Redux.
Sorry to get it off the rails right at the beginning, but so yeah, Collision. It's just same old Collision. Not a lot going on, and I thought it was a really weird that Battle Royal might have had the least amount of star power I've ever seen in a Battle Royal. I mean, Ricochet was the biggest star, and then you had like Brodito and whatnot.
And then Max Caster and Anthony Bones doing their "Are They Together Again" bit.
That's going way too long.
Yeah. Everyone else was just people that lose matches. So it was just like, are you supposed to hold people over with this? Like, sometimes I don't understand. Like, they're doing that thing now, like they've done the last couple pay-per-views where the pre-show leads, carries over into the main show. Yeah. And I think this was the same type of deal, but this was really weak of trying to make people watch another extra hour. And what they're put on now isn't helping as well.
Yeah, I agree.
And they didn't even promote. I mean, they mentioned the Battle Royal, but it was like, now we're coming, because I mean, and honestly, they don't have a lot to be super proud of when it came to what they were going to feature. I mean, even, Bandito and Ricochet, it's fine. But it just, I don't know. It felt like a TV time filler, as you said, Rude Dog, with much people who don't win. But I wish if you're going to have it, hype it a little more. Give us some sound bites with some wrestlers. Make us take the weakness and try to mitigate that by having some sound bites from people who, even if you don't think that they're going to win, you can make us look forward to them losing in a way, like a cocky heel, mid-card heel cutting a promo, or if Max Caster, cut a promo. Like, oh, I remember Max. He's not on Dynamite much. I kind of want to see him. Instead we get, what we got. So I don't know. And then they follow it up with Masco Dorada and Orange Cassidy in a battle of people who aren't going to win the tournament. So yeah, JB, your thoughts on the battle?
Yeah, I almost thought that Shelton Benjamin would be involved, because at least there's some ties to MJF to a certain extent, and he obviously was the most recent holder of the ring. So I mean, not that that's a lot of star power, but at least there's continuity to that. But it didn't seem like there was a lot of continuity to the previous winners or anything like that. So I'm almost wondering, like, what's the point? Unless they have a story for Ricochet, like a really intriguing story with the ring, which is possible. I mean, he has the character to do it. But like you said, in and of itself, it's not anything that's going to hold the crowd. If it leads to something greater down the road for Ricochet and elevating him, then, I guess it's worth it for a third hour. That doesn't really matter. But, nothing that compelling. So
it's just been easy, Rude Dog, right? To have sound bites with like 6 or 7 of the guys coming in and out of commercial breaks throughout the first 2 hours, so that, I mean, I know a lot of the breaks are during a match, so it's hard to do a sound bite, but any chance you could otherwise, doesn't even have to be going in and out of commercial. You can just do it in between, right before ring entrances or something, and just have Shelton and Anthony Bowen, whoever, the Ricochet, obviously Ricochet and Bandito too. Just have the people who might have a chance to win or are just intriguing personalities. Just give a little soundbite. Just build it up. And it was, what a cold open to the show too. Like, I mean, they just went right to the ring. The bell rang. This was a pretty no frills show. What's that, JB?
Yeah, I was going to mention that as well. Plus
Yeah.
the length of that match, where if you're going to have Moxley win, it doesn't need to go nearly 20 minutes. And like you said, just they're right in the ring, no intros or anything like that. To a match that really, you almost, I mean, it's Roddy Strong. So it's like, is that the way you're going to capture people immediately with no frills around it? So,
and really, it's a match that needed to have Roderick Strong cut a spirited promo backstage, and it can even be, I'm not gonna have a goose egg at the end of this tournament. Moxley, talk about it. Moxley's freaking out. I'm going to pull out every submission hold I have. He's been losing matches. People think he could lose. People don't give me a chance. Have his cohorts his friends give him a pep talk and have him get super excited. Just, and then have him head to the ring for the ring intro instead of having him standing in the ring. Roderick Strong, you could say, isn't worth the effort, but I'd say if you're going to do a 15-minute match with someone of Moxley's caliber, spend 40 seconds getting us to care a little bit about him, or at least get a sense of if you think it's inevitable he's going to lose, make us anticipate his reaction to losing by giving us a window into his mindset about how he feels going into it. And so in that sense, I think they lost something, especially because, it was a nice match. I called it the sleeper match of the night because, Strong always has good matches, and it was good. Tony Khan leans on good match too much, I think, to his detriment. You want to have context and think about more than good wrestling. You want to have fans invested in seeing the reaction of the winner, the reaction of the loser, and nothing was set up there. Rude Dog.
Yeah. Well, I was going to talk more about the whole collision setup, how it's bleeding into today, but then they're having another collision on Saturday at
it's confusing.
2:30 Eastern,
yep.
11:30 Pacific. Why? And I don't understand. Usually when they do this extra hour for collision, that's just it. But I know TNT is having college football games that day, so I guess that's the lead into that. But it gets so confusing, the schedule. Do they want people to watch collision? I don't know.
It's confusing because they're plugging the Hammerstein shows, and then they have that goofy logo for 34th Street, and then they have Christmas Collision, and it just I don't think speed talking through plugs with confusing looking graphics with a mess of a schedule is the best way to go. But at the same time, what do you do? I guess they could have just not mentioned the Hammerstein shows because they're sold out. So why even mention them? It confuses people into thinking they can watch them on Saturday and Sunday night. And so I just taken those plugs off if they're sold out completely and emphasized if Saturday night doesn't work for you to watch Collision, typically you got a Saturday afternoon show. Tune in. It's a big episode, and make it clear to people, because Redog, I was thinking like you, a lot of people are thinking, wait, Collision's on Wednesday, so there isn't a Collision this weekend. They needed to underline that more. I don't know if Tony Khan doesn't care, or he doesn't think it's worth the effort, or he doesn't think about it because he thinks everyone is big of a fan as he has been his whole life, and they just schedule their life around it and do the homework to figure it all out. But it's especially confusing this week for sure.
Yeah, and to be fair, it could be a Warner Brothers call to have some form of Collision on Saturday because it was a pretty good success of the college football playoffs last year. So maybe they're looking to kind of replicate something like that.
I'm not against that. Just make it more clear they're doing it.
Agreed. Structure it better.
Yeah. Just Rudog, I'm fine with having an afternoon Collision. I think you can bring in a new audience. Just do a better job letting people know on Dynamite it's happening. And it is confusing because normally when there's a 3-hour Dynamite with that 1-hour Collision, there isn't a Collision on the weekend. I think it's just triple the reason to really let people know what's happening. And then you add the Hammerstein confusion where they're plugging a show that's sold out on Saturday and Sunday night. And it was a lot of information, but it's not a new issue for AEW. It's an ongoing thing.
Another thing that was confusing is they brought back AEW Dark. I don't know if you saw that, but it was like a one-time only thing. I just caught it today. I didn't watch the whole thing. I was just like, is this for real? And I put it on and I watched the first match and I was like, okay, this is dark. But it was but then they were saying it was on Tuesday. I was like, when? It just confused me anymore. When did Dark get recorded? Was it today? Was it yesterday? Was it? How long were these poor people in this arena if they filmed that today? I don't know.
It went
my
up.
understanding it was a 4-hour show. It was a 4-hour block today. So
yeah,
I think they did record it today.
Okay. Well, Tony Schiavone must have been confused because he said it was Tuesday, so maybe.
No, the AEW Dark went up yesterday, so yeah, I think I had it straight yesterday, and I don't have it straight right now. Thinking back on it, it was weird. Just taped 3 random matches, and they promoted on Twitter, so of course everybody knew. One time only special AEW Dark. It felt like a last second decision. Like it just felt like, you plan to go to the grocery store and the hardware store, and you took a diversion to Dairy Queen. It just was this weird thing like that Tony Khan did, and I didn't have a chance to ask why they did it.
Yeah, I read somewhere that it was Tony wanted to do something special for the Manchester crowd, but I'm like, I mean, realistically, how special isn't just basically an extra hour of Collision essentially is what you're getting, and this is already what you're getting for 1 extra hour. So I mean, I can imagine what wasn't on TV.
And why not just call it a 3-hour Dynamite if you're doing Collision on the weekend? Just say that. Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. All right, Doug.
All right. I don't know if I have anything cleared up about that, but yeah, it's just it's just a hot mess. Is what it is.
Yeah.
But and you mentioned Renee Paquette, and I just had to laugh at that because do they just have an AI generated Renee Paquette? Because it was like startling how unhuman she sounded when she is like usually pretty, good on the mic unless she's fanning out. But yeah, so
it's like they woke her up in the middle of the night and said, Renee, we need a sideline report. I know you didn't make the trip, but here's what you need to say. We just texted you the words. And Renee, half asleep on her phone, left a voicemail with Tony Khan saying her words, and then they recorded it and presented it with a little, voicemail sound waves. It was weird. I mean, I think they've been getting compliments about the sideline reporting that she's been doing and wanted to keep it going. And the announcers had a lot of heavy lifting to do in that opening match. They had to talk about the tournament, the graphics on the bottom of the screen explaining the standings. They went over the rules, and then they tried to provide some context, and they jammed it all into those opening minutes on the show. And I think they just wanted to deliver a lot of information, and instead of doing a setup before the bell and ring introductions or a promo, they decided to have Renee part of the collage of contributors trying to make you see what was at stake and frame the show. But I don't remember exactly what she said. I mean, it was helpful, but yeah, it sounded weird. She said that they're 2-2 overall against each other and 1-1 in AEW. So just very sideline reporter kind of random fact type thing.
Well, it didn't help, but whatever. So what did you think of the overseas crowd this time around? I mean, they had their chance. I was like, really? Roderick Strong? Okay. Like, it's just like, and then when I watched that one dark match, there's a wrestler that just wrestled. She's from Scotland. They call her Isla Dawn, but I thought there already was an Isla Dawn in WWE, but she spells her name differently, Isla, and they were chanting her name. Isla Dawn. I was like, come on, really? You're going to chant? Like, I guess the chants just get on my nerves. And I know it's part of the football, soccer culture and whatnot, but when you're like chanting for Isla Dawn, like, give me a break. So what do you think of the crowd?
Well, first, it's the same Isla Dawn. That's how she spelled it in WWE, and she spells it that
way.
Oh,
is it?
Same. Yep. Yep.
She looks different to me. Okay.
That happens. They change their look. I've been fooled before. I didn't think the crowd stood out tonight in part because American crowds are singing Cody Rhodes, and I haven't picked up on the fact that I don't think Cody likes it that much. He just no-sells it and waits for him to finish and then picks up where he left off. I get a kick out of that. I mean, so American crowds have picked up, North American crowds have picked up on it, so it's less novel. I didn't think the crowd stood out. I mean, I think AEW could have done a better job accentuating the 10,000 plus. Schiavone mentioned it at least once in passing. When you have a crowd of that size, this is the thing. I mean, I like for 6+ years I've been saying, and this is and they lost a chance to do it in the way that I originally said. And WWE now does it so well, it'll seem like AEW's copying it. But even before WWE was doing it, I said AEW has this super enthusiastic fan base, and that's their selling point. They started when WWE was a little bit colder, And they should have cameras out front of the building showing, like, Saturday's main event, the Cena fans going nuts, and all that passion that WWE did, and they do it regularly now. AEW should have been have a man on the street, so to speak, with a camera showing fans lining up outside the building and talking about the buzz in that town. When you go to a different country and you have a city that's giving you the best crowd you've had in ages, nobody should get through 2 hours of Dynamite and not think AEW's a red-hot international product. And they didn't do that. I mean, they didn't. The arena was darkened. They did a cool wide shot at one point where they showed from way up above the opposite the entrance ramp, but you still didn't get a sense of the scope of the crowd in the arena. And that's a bummer. I mean, show the enthusiasm of the fans in the building. Now the buildings, you can't light it up fully because the building holds like 20-some thousand people. So you can't light it up fully, but they could have done more to accentuate it. And my God, just show people lining up outside the building and talk about the buzz in the city. And it's so not how Tony Khan's mind works. Some people you can tell, you walk in someone's house, you can tell if they have an eye for interior design or not, just based on did they just buy a couch set off the floor and it's ragged and it's against the wall and the area rug's too small. I mean, like, some people have an eye for that, some don't. Tony Khan doesn't have an eye for that stuff. Like, he thinks about what's in the ropes, the matches, and storylines and promos he cares about. But the visual stuff, I don't think he puts much thought into it, and he hasn't hired someone to up the game. And I think they lose a lot. I think one of AEW's selling points should be the intensity of fan enthusiasm, and tonight was a missed opportunity to show that. And you want to give an idea that our guys are big stars internationally. That part of that is showing a big crowd. And I didn't really think about this being overseas in front of a big crowd. JB, did it jump out to you that they were overseas in front of a big crowd compared to any other normal Dynamite?
No, I wouldn't say necessarily. I would say the volume.
I think I can't hear you, but I don't. Can you hear him, Rude Dog?
Yes.
You can? Oh, so I must have accidentally muted. I did. Never mind. It's on my side. Go ahead, JB.
Okay. No worries. Yeah, I wouldn't say I noticed anything in particular. As Rudog mentioned, the chants, obviously, you're going to notice that to a certain extent. And I would say the volume was definitely a little bit louder, obviously, with more people. But outside that, I don't think they did too much different or really highlighted it that much on commentary, which I think is also another tool that could be used. Like you said, Wade, I think it'd be cool to do show like outdoor scenes of, classic, I don't know, Manchester, landscape or whatever that may be. But no, I mean, I wouldn't say completely stand it out. I would say, I noticed the difference is I think I noticed the volume and the annoying chants as well. So that's about it. Yeah.
Good and bad. Yeah. But it didn't jump out. I mean, I think you could have watched the show, and if you were not paying attention, you would have not really known they were in this really cool other country with 10,000 plus with an more enthusiastic fan base. It's just, they got 5% of what they could have easily gotten out of it with a little bit of effort. But it's par for the course for them. It's Tony Khan doesn't prioritize it. That's his choice. Ruduk.
Yeah, it was lit the same way as when they, wrestle in 3,000 people, like theater type deal. So that was weird, but yeah, I guess it's par for the course. But all right, so a different subject. How do you think Kenny Omega looked? I mean, to me, he looked pretty good. And do you think he could maybe get to the main eventer status? Or just keep being like a part-timer?
I think he looks good. The Bucks and Kenny look cosmetically the best that they've ever looked in AEW. I mean, they just look like they're taken seriously. The visual appearance of their act. I will say, because I don't want to forget to say it, the spot where they took like 15 seconds to set up a dive outside the ring. And they're in the ring and they're posing, and they did a wide shot. And you could see the heels standing there waiting for them at ringside with their arms out, like they're going to catch you. And then the camera went back to the ring, and it's like 5-10 more seconds of the Bucks and Kenny revving up and getting ready. By the time they did the dive, the heels have been standing there for 15 seconds. It looks so stupid. Don't do that. Just don't do that. But the rest was what you would expect. I mean, it's a lot of, rapid fire tags, sometimes no tags, tandem moves, triple team moves. Nick Jackson, of course, just stands out. He's just phenomenal, in everything he does, even if the context is a little, random and frenetic sometimes. But I think Kenny, to be precise in your question, he fit in. He did not look like an old guy on his last legs with, in the ring with the Bucks and some talented people on the other side of the ring. And so my answer to your question is, I think Kenny's kind of moving his way back onto the radar as a guy who you could imagine, if he's up for it, having a big singles run. I don't think he's going to, I don't know if he'll ever be a Continental Classic guy who wants to work a ton of matches in December, but he's looking good. And, if he's careful with his style, he has enough other things he can do. He doesn't have to, work in a way that wears him out. He can rely on working smarter in the ring, and there's still enough there that's special, even if he's not who he was 8 years ago. JB.
Yeah. Number one, actually, you mentioned Nick Jackson, and I think I would like to see even more singles stuff. Honestly, I think there's something you could get out of him.
But once a year, I pitch that, in my writing. Yeah. I'm like, I want Nick in the Continental Classic. I want Nick to get a singles run. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's one. Secondarily, I'm not sure Kenny Omega himself or even Tony Khan at this point wants him to be main event. I think this is kind of where they see him now is kind of maybe the leader of the elite, which is a fine position. Obviously maybe not what we have thought of Kenny, when AEW, debuted 6-7 years ago now, but a lot of times past it since that point, things changed to a certain extent. Is he capable of getting a few more runs out of him? Yeah, absolutely. And I definitely see a couple more coming, but I think this is more by design than it is by just kind of being overlooked. I think this is intentional right now, but yeah, I would like to see at least one or two big runs out of Kenny. But as being the top guy, I don't see that happening again, honestly, at this point. So,
Rudog, what do you think of that?
Yeah, I understand. I was trying to figure out if they're just hiding him behind the Bucks because he can only do so much anymore, type of deal, and he's just going to be a tag guy. But what I saw in him tonight, made me feel like, okay, I think he still has it, and I think he could do another run. And I mean Samoa Joe just won the title. Why couldn't Kenny Omega win the title again?
Kenny's got to be willing to adjust his style for what he physically can sustainably do. And if he does, there's star power there. And there's veterans in Japan who are not able to go the way they used to, and the crowds eat them up, and they get away with pushing them at the top sometimes. So, I think there's a way to make it work. But the thing is, if you've got MJF and Hangman and Swerve in their prime and Kyle Fletcher, it's fine. I'm okay with Kenny not ever being in a world title match again. I think he will be. I'm certainly fine with him not being the centerpiece attraction. I think that window was, 99 to 2003, and they kind of tried, but it just, a lot of things happened that led to it not happening. So yeah. What else, Rudog?
And what about the gimmick of that match, the $1 million match thing? I thought it was going to be just they did it for a gag, but they keep going on with this money match thing, which I thought was cheesy in the 80s when Big John Studd won it. And I was a kid. I was like, well, that's not real money. So it's is the whole thing just a goof? Going back to the old days when people, supposedly wrestled for thousands of dollars. Now it's $1 million. But it's why do they keep doing this? I don't get it.
Zach Hayden and I talked about it on the mailbag today. So everyone hit refresh and check it out on the blue logo side of things. Search Wade Keller in your podcast app. I won't repeat the things I said there. I will add, it used to be cool when there was a battle royal once a year, and the territory would have a $10,000 battle royal, $25,000, and then it became a $100,000 battle royal. I think Jim Crockett was first to do $1 million battle royal. I might be wrong. Maybe Mitchell will jump in and correct me on that. That was to attract stars from other territories. The premise, the presupposition was we have a big cash prize, and we're going to have wrestlers from all over the country and sometimes from the world come in because they want that cash prize. Okay, I bought that. Made sense. Makes no sense that wrestlers who get paid for matches now are arbitrarily getting bonus money when they presumably, as Dusty always said, there's a winner's purse, there's the pay window for the winners, and it's more than the losers, and other commentators have brought that up. So there is no context. It's random. And, I talked to Zach about it, so I can point people there for more thoughts on that. JB, what do you think?
Yeah, there's 2 points that I, kind of wrote down about that in particular tonight. One is, why was Don Callis simply allowed to just steal the money the Bucks rightfully won, and there's been no repercussions for weeks? So what was the point of the original match then? I guess you could just take the money. If that's the case, then why didn't it?
I think I got an email last week on that. I didn't get to it.
Yeah, I think I did
from you
that last week.
Yeah, that's the joke.
and then secondarily, it didn't. I'm not 100% sure. Like, I think it ended tonight, but will it? It's been dragging it up for weeks, and they kind of were hesitant towards the end of the match until like the Bucks finally took it and got it.
Yeah.
But is this going to be like an ongoing thing, or are the Bucks going to do anything with the money, or kind of what was the point of dragging this on for multiple weeks? I mean, was it really the best time spent? I guess it was probably the driving force for the storyline that for the elite to reunite. But I mean, I really think it could have been done without the silly money storyline. So
I mean, the genesis, I believe, was Nick Jackson with a gambling problem, and the punchline. I don't know if it's even a punchline, but the point was, well, now Nick can get his bank account re-upped, but they just didn't hit that well enough. Or even I'm confident saying that was like, I'm guessing that was kind of their intention. So I don't know.
Yeah,
it's weird.
It's the case. It should probably have been highlighted and hammered home tonight by commentary too. I mean, that's not something you just gloss over 4 weeks ago and expect to be remembered. But
yeah. Ducky D says, I think Nick Jackson should put it on black and double up. There we go.
You got to win sometime.
Zach Barber said it's been going on since May. That is not true. There's no way that's true. It probably is true. Root Dog, what else?
Well, this also isn't the first time they've done like a money match, like money battle royal and whatnot. It's just like it honestly takes me out of it. I'm just like, okay, like now that seems really fake. So I would just curb that. Like, it doesn't make sense. No one's buying it. So why do?
I agree.
Kind of like much like a Hell in the Cell match. I mean, there's a time and place, but it feels like we've been hammered with it like 8 times already at this point this year. So
speaking of money, Mitchell has a super chat. If the Elite and the Dunkels family are competing for $1 million, why would there be no security guarding the money? Just sitting there in a duffel bag. I mean, it's obviously security guards are hapless. They're all beat up. No, security won't show up. That's what's happening. Is security won't show up to wrestling shows anymore because they get beat up. It's not worth the $30 an hour they get paid to be security to get beat up by wrestlers with no ramifications. So it's all at risk. But I mean, honestly, back in the day, there'd be some fan who would jump the guardrail and try to run away with the money. It's I don't know. Yeah, it's we had a whole conversation on the Fix a few weeks back about whether $1 million should be in a duffel bag. My argument was it should be because nobody thinks anyone would be dumb enough to store $1 million in a duffel bag. So it's the safest way to walk around with money. If you don't want to walk around with like a big golden dollar symbol like $1 Million Man on a briefcase, people steal that. There's probably a middle ground somewhere, but I don't know. I never crossed my mind someone with a duffel bag has $1 million in it. I think it's smelly gym socks, so I'm not going to grab it.
They should bring out a Brinks truck.
Yes. Anything else for Doug? Thanks for the super chat, by the way, Mitchell, and everyone's welcome to do that. Appreciate the super chats.
The last thing I got left was, why was Pac just sitting on a chair before his intro? Like, was that a callback to something? Like, or just look cool? And they were just that was the only thing. I was like, why is he just sitting in the entryway on a chair? That's all.
I don't know.
That's all I got for tonight.
All right, thanks, Rude Dog.
Bye.
Bye.
That's
Have a good
weekend.
Any thoughts on that? Pac on a chair?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree. I don't think there's really a lot to be added to that, but it's makes sense. So
Chris, let's wait for this to show up here. Chris Rucker says Lil Wayne told us a long time ago duffel bags were full of money. Well, there you go. The secret's out. The secret is out. Some comments on the Kenny Omega topic we had in the chat. I'll just throw a couple things up here. Mitchell said, it's surprising Kenny Omega didn't have a second world title reign, but I guess you have to push other guys like Swerve, Page, MJF, Fletcher, Takeshita as future world champs. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of competition for Kenny. And also we had diverticulitis and there's a pandemic and, Tony had it kind of plotted out who his first champs are going to be, all kinds of reasons. Ducky D says the core strength is obviously lacking with Omega. I hate watching Kenny age. It seems more obvious to me than other aging stars. Something there. One man's voice said Okada asked for help with the double team suplex, sees it's Takeshita instead of Echicero, and then he refuses to do the suplex. Good stuff. And I'll throw in Hermes. AJ says Okada and Takeshita need to be the Wrestle Kingdom main event because that's the only way we get the best version of that match. The Rainmaker of Japan has not shown up in AEW save for once or twice. So anyway, any other thoughts on the 6-man tag, the Elite, on Cal's family, including, I guess, mostly storyline wise, Okada and Takeshita, and how that was handled?
Yeah, I think it's kind of par for the course with what they've been doing. I mean, they've kind of been building that tension. I think, successfully. I think they've hit a lot of steps along the way. I think it needs to culminate relatively soon. But I think there's a lot of value in that feud. So I think it's a feud that's probably going to continue for 2 to potentially 3 matches of different varieties. I think there's a lot of juice out of that to squeeze going into 2026, maybe beginning to early summer 2026 potentially. So that's something that I think they've really nurtured and done a really good job with. And I think there's a lot of value in those 2 stars, particularly Takeshita. There's a lot. He's very, very young. He's a natural likability to him. It might be good to get him, if he turns heel, maybe someone he can interact with to carry, talking segments to a certain point. But like I said, I think he has that innate presence that sells himself. So I think there's a lot of value in Takeshita. I think they've done a lot with this feud, and I'm excited about where it's going to go. I think could be potentially feud of the year for 2026. So, wait, I can't hear you. I don't know if you're.
Yeah, you hope Okada rises to the occasion for that.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think there might be something in a fellow countryman. Maybe he sees something in Takeshita he sees in himself, and he wants to help elevate him. So I could see that being a little bit different cases with what he has done in AEW to this point. So,
Adam Kidd asks, is Kenny Omega the biggest disappointment in AEW history? One man's voice says, Adam, you always give me a good laugh. Thanks, brother. Zach Barber goes, disappointment? And Adam Kidd says, I don't think he's come close to living up to his hype from Japan. And Hermes says, if you watch Kenny in Japan, he's missed the mark. But Ducky Duck adds, CM Punk is obviously the biggest AEW disappointment.
I would say Kenny. Cody. Honestly, I think
interesting.
He was very unself-aware during his time in AEW. I think he deserved the boost he got eventually. Obviously he's reinvented himself in WWE to a great amount of success, but I think that's through a lot of I would say AEW is a place for people that don't need. People that are successful are good without a ton of editing, whereas WWE really curates people, and that's really a lot better for people that kind of hit processes and hit step by step. So there's that bit of differentiation. I think Cody thrives in a WWE type environment, but he kind of floundered a little bit. The Codyverse was never appealing to me, honestly. Maybe at the very beginning, but it died maybe after he couldn't challenge for the title anymore. That's when kind of Cody's appeal died for me in AEW. Now it was relatively short lived, and I guess Punk's was to a certain extent as well, but.
Yeah, I think Cody wrestled a more diverse group of opponents, and obviously didn't have the ill-fated Malachi Black feud and We Cured Racism and baby gender reveal. Those were incidents that contributed, but also symptoms of the lack of self-awareness that just kind of permeated everything he did there. And you're right, he is better off in WWE with the machine behind him and a lot of contributors keeping him on track. Because what do you want to talk about kind of started off as Cody showing up in the ring and doing the weave. He's kind of jumping around topic to topic and a little meandering, a little too casual and conversational. It can be appealing in a certain context, but he needed to be focused, and he wasn't. But people who saw Kenny's work in AEW or in New Japan in his prime, kind of like Okada, and thought that's going to be what separates AEW, is he has a chance. And he did, to be a breakout star for that company, but he didn't. I think there were enough people in his ear telling him how great he was that he didn't end up being great in the context of being the centerpiece star of a weekly TV show. And it's just a different job description. And he didn't show up ready for that new job description. He was like, I'm just going to have good, great pay-per-view matches. And he could have been more. And, one of AEW's faults, it's big picture criticism, I think it holds up and stands up, is they didn't aim to expand their audience. They super served their audience. And as people early on, and even more than early on with me, asked, is everybody on Twitter, Wade? Because Tony Khan thinks everybody is. And it's like, so they could have done so much more if they just would have said, now let's take things to another level, instead of listening to everyone in there telling them how they were Hall of Famers in their mid-30s and you've already arrived. And if people don't find you, it's their loss. Yeah.
And I would say it's actually it's worked with certain people. For example, like Tony Storm, Ricochet, Swerve. And I would say, Hangman was never in like the WWE type environment, but Hangman himself too. I think generally when they're given freedom, they're more hits than misses to a certain extent. Whereas I think maybe some of those, for example, Swerve and Tony Storm were so curated in WWE and definitely did touch their full potential there. So there's certainly a bit of give and take, both companies have their own faults to a certain extent. But I mean, I agree with the overall discourse is that, like you said, we got to look a little bit more into characters and, probably have some people in the team that are a little bit more hands in, and you could definitely, keep your own marks on things as opposed to being a little bit more free flowing. But yeah, so.
Yeah. Well, we got a chat room debate going on about who the biggest disappointment in AEW is. Ducky D agrees. Cody is up there. Rude Dog says Okada. Adam Kidd said not all his fault, but Kenny Omega is not even close to what he was. Adam Kidd says Punk was definitely a swing and a miss. It worked until it didn't, but the biggest ratings were for Punk. Hermes says, I agreed. I'm out on Cody Rhodes regardless of the wrestling company. Chris Rucker, an interesting submission. I think Miro was. People were so jacked from an AEW when he wrestled, 20 matches?
Yeah.
I
would say.
Yeah.
Right on.
No, I think Miro's good to introduce in the discussion.
Yeah, I think though Miro, I think his ceiling's a lot lower, and I think there's a bit of revisionist history with Miro to a certain extent. And I think the original Redeemer for a good, probably 4 to 5 month period was very good. Now everything else he did, the later Redeemer, where he just kind of gay out. The original Gamer was terrible, but when he was with Kip Sabian, that was awful. And then the later version, where I think he just kind of phoned out at that point with the Redeemer, was garbage as well. But I think there was a 4 to 5 month period where I was kind of enthralled with some of Miro's promos, kind of being about the Redeemer and kind of the relation to God and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say, based on what he's capable of, I wouldn't put Miro on that list. I mean, I get where you're coming from that to a certain extent. And
I think that first Redeemer chapter that you're talking about is what built up expectations, and then it just didn't have the payoff, and it was deflating.
True.
And I think that's where people have him on the list.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. And then kind of going back to Okada and Kenny, they come from a Japan environment though, where it's not weekly episodic programming. So maybe they just weren't. That's not what they're best at. Which is, and it's obviously you want to do your best to learn, but sometimes people, you could tell an person that is athletic, hey, if you just practice, shooting 3-pointers, you can be. But maybe you just aren't good at shooting 3-pointers. You just aren't athletic. You're just not going to ever get that good to be a professional level. So yeah.
I mean, obviously, if everybody could just through practice, Ricky Rubio would still be in the league if he could learn to shoot. I mean, he was mega talented, but some people just don't have the hand-eye focus, whatever it is that leads to that consistency and that precision from distance. All right, or in Ricky's case, unfortunately, even not from distance. Adam Kidd said he never adapted to weekly TV in reference to Kenny. So yeah, he also said I thought the belt collector gimmick was boring myself, but his matches were good. That's the thing. It's people around Tony Khan will say after a TV show with good matches, Tony's like, it was a great show because that was a great match. That was a great match. That was a great match. His, and you see it in post-event press conferences too. He doesn't think about great promo, great storyline development. He's so focused on getting that adrenaline rush of a great wrestling match. And unfortunately, that Kenny leaned on that, and part of that was serving what his boss wanted from him. I think if Tony Khan had higher expectations and laid them out, maybe Kenny could have stepped up or with some help done it. Had accomplished it, but he didn't.
Yeah, I think the version of Kenny I actually like best in AEW was actually the interaction with TNA, the interplay at the time. I thought that's kind of when he let his, let loose, let his guard down actually a little bit more, but had a bit of seriousness to him, as far as, kind of being, the arrogant heel that didn't have any use for a company like TNA. And I like that interplay actually. And that maybe wasn't even that long of a period of time, but that's probably when I enjoyed Kenny best actually. So,
yeah. Adam Kidd says Miro was a good call, Rucker. So a vote there. Ducky D says all those things Wade mentioned are small potatoes regarding Cody compared to Brandy's involvement. Rightfully or wrongly, she contributed greatly to Cody not working in AEW.
Agreed.
I'm interested. Like, I don't think Brandy helped. I don't, Brandy's been off TV for a while. I don't want to bring her up. Just, she's off TV now. There's not a point in that. But since the chat brought it up, I think Brandy was in search of a role that fit her in AEW. And it was obvious, and it would switch from week to week sometimes. But I saw it more as Brandy was trying to find her niche. I didn't see it as a huge drag. I think Cody is more responsible for the drag on Cody than Brandy was. I don't think Brandy helped. I think she hurt, but I don't know that I'd consider it a huge contributor. But maybe I'm looking back on it too generously. But you said right away, no, you think she was a big factor. So make that case.
Yeah, so I have absolutely no evidence of this, but I'm going to put the gender reveal probably more so on Brandy than Cody. This is just kind of having seen some of their interplay with some. So I can't, like I said, I can't say that for sure what it means, but I think some of the things Cody did, Brandy, that are unappealing to the core audience that AEW would like to attract. Brandy was probably not so aware of that, and then that really turned people off to Cody, and then everything kind of snowballed from there because he just wasn't going to get the reactions he wanted doing anything else after that. So
yeah. Good. A couple other names to add to the list here. Ducky D says Keith Lee deserves mention. We got nothing from him, and I had high hopes. Well, I will say, I'm going to do this. I warn people. I mean, WWE warned me. Like, people in WWE just said, Tony Khan's going to find out. You need to do some due diligence. Keith Lee wasn't going to, just for a variety of reasons, wasn't going to be that guy. But so I'd called it. I said it'd be great if he did. But he was living off of a past reputation, and he had some health problems. Maybe he would have.
Yeah, I think long COVID is what I heard. Maybe if affected his athletic ability, which is what set him apart. So he was never going to be that top guy, but maybe he could have been better through health circumstances. But obviously, we'll never know. So
I think there were going to be some ongoing issues to overcome that dogged him in WWE. Mitchell says, "What about Malachi Black and Keith Lee?" We already talked about Keith Lee, but Malachi.
I blame him more, honestly, though, than the company in that sense.
Elaborate.
I mean, I feel like he's a guy that just was refusing to do things. And sure, Tony could have made him, but I felt like if you could make someone do anything, but if they're just going to sandbag it, then you might as well just not even have him on the show. I mean, what's the point of that? Now, granted, he should have maybe done more due diligence, as you mentioned, Wade, with some of those signings. But once, the signings have been made, I don't know if there's a ton you can do when someone's heart just really isn't truly in something. You can't really force them to be good if they don't want to be good. So.
Yeah. Back to Cody. Adam Kidd says Cody is insufferable. And Jack Barber says Brandy dragged him down. And then Hermes agreed with Adam on that comment. Arn didn't work with him. The Arn pairing was kind of weird. Felt a little living in the past, and Arn just wasn't. I don't know. He was a weird appendage to the Cody gimmick as a babyface, coach. And he didn't come across particularly likable at that stage either. And so I think a lot of things worked.
It felt like something that should have worked, but like you said, it just was not natural. I don't know what there was where the disconnect was, but it definitely didn't work. So there's no denying that.
Yep. The nonsense where he left his boots in the ring. So Zach Barber wants us to invalidate all our criticism because you might be able to say WWE is worse at something. So it means this discussion is irrelevant, because he goes, okay, Wade, what's worse, WWE being in a position to not give a damn about their fans, or AEW super serving theirs? Not
both aren't great. I mean, if you look at them in their in their own individual vacuums.
Yeah, it's not a it's a false choice. So it's probably the definition of irrelevant as a combined discussion. I think they both we can criticize both independently without trying to use something another company's doing. But if it's a serious question, AEW should have not super served their fans in a way that stunted their growth, and everybody would be better off if through zero. And it's not a zero-sum game. They don't need to subtract anything they've done. That's what Zach. I've told you this before. I don't know if you understand. I mean, I'm new here, but do you understand? Like, I'm not saying stop super serving your fans. I'm saying stop super serving your fans at the expense of, in a way that displaces creating more of a welcoming environment for newer fans. You can do both easily. So it just isn't an either or. It's not a zero-sum game here where you're going to have to give Zach. You don't have to give anything up you love about AEW for AEW to have done some things that would help them grow the product. So. Yeah.
No, I will say this. So Tony Khan's going to book how Tony Khan wants to book. We all know that.
Yep.
And if he truly believes that, and I will also say, infinite growth isn't sustainable. So you can grow to a certain point, but obviously you're not going to, the landscape of TV has changed. We're not going to get to the multi-millions again of viewers for like AEW. That's just not realistic. So if he thinks he can sustain the business doing what he's doing and he's comfortable doing it, and he's comfortable with that, I mean, I'm okay with that to a certain extent as well. I mean, sure, maybe he doesn't have the eye in the reader business goal, but there is an audience for this. And if the audience is large enough to sustain what he's trying to do, I mean, I can't necessarily fault him for that. I mean, if that's what he wants, that's what he wants. I mean, even if he may be self-aware of this, I'm not entirely sure.
And I think it's a super fair point to make. I mean, if Tony Khan is content and profitable, and almost by design just doesn't feel like he wants to mess with super serving his fans, and he believes whatever I'm talking about might get in the way of that. And he can make money and be an alternative. I mean, Tony may be self-aware and have made that conscious decision. I would counter argue, and I think there's probably voices in the company who wish they could get through to him. There's a way to have both, I mean, there is, but obviously they've got big TV deals and the ratings are good enough, but I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. No, ultimately, I agree with you. I'm just saying, I guess I could see where he's coming from, and maybe if that's his passion project, where it's not just complete fantasy play box, because he is theoretically making money right now, so it's not just complete joke or anything like that. It's not like Dixie Carter with TNA. I'd say there's a difference there, but yeah.
Chris Rucker says Wade against Zach Barber gets my vote for feud of the year. Thing is, I love Zach. He's great. We just.
You're the hangman and swerve of
there we are. Yes, his call he contributes to PWTorch. His feud record is great. His Continental Classic reviews are his what do we call them? Continental Classic. What do we call them, Zach? Not overview. There's a. I'm clicking on the website right now. He's probably typing it in the chat as I switch over. Continental Classic Roundup. That's a phrase. The Continental Classic Roundup. He does a great job with those. It's a good. I recommend people check out PWTorch Wednesdays to read what Zach has to say, because he is critical of AEW, even though it would come across like he's an apologist here, because he is. He is also critical of them in productive, really thoughtful ways. All right. One man's voice says bingo. Wade is the freaking man with a plan. That's in response to you can have your super serve your fans, but also grow. And let's see. Adam Kidd said, "Is it a feud when Wade always wins?" Yes.
It's like the Lions and Packers 3 years ago.
Oh yeah, yeah. Zach Barber says, "I do get what you're saying, Wade. My issue is that I've always wondered where these lost fans are. I don't know, they're doing other things on Wednesdays, and they're not. Yeah, I mean."
Yeah, and I will say too, there's some things. To be fair, I do think there's some things that have been out of AEW's control. AEW can't control WWE getting really hot, taking time away from people to a certain extent. And there are the name brand. It's like McDonald's versus your local burger joint to a certain extent. Not that that's an entirely excuse, but there is something to be said about that. So
yep. So Ducky D says, "I think this is outdated criticism. I don't know who feels outside of the AEW club these days and why. TK is doing a much better job presenting the stuff to viewers of all type." I mean, I think there's something to that in terms of it being outdated criticism, but AEW is not running on the momentum of New Japan Tokyo Dome shows right now, or being the elite on YouTube. They're clearly beyond that. But many of the things that kept them from growing when they had that early momentum, and has led to a drop in crowds by 50%, whatever. It's like a huge drop in live attendance. And they're running smaller buildings as a result. They have driven off some fans who were enthusiastic at the beginning. And I think the things that drove off some fans are also similar to things that the absence of led to them not growing. And so the idea of growing the fan base 5-6 years ago when they had momentum, the same things are absent from the game plan now. Although I think they're better in certain ways. I thought, and one of the Wade Keller news bulletins, VIP exclusive feature, I followed up on what I said last week on the post show. Last week's Dynamite was a perfect Dynamite. Like not in that there wasn't something in it, but the format, the presentation, the mix, the production. And I elaborated on it in the Wade Keller news bulletin. It was a written format, audio format also for VIP members. I put that up over the weekend. I really thought last week's AEW showed, it was an example, JB, of not a culmination, but a good example of what I have been advocating for 6+ years, that every week should be, in terms of the balance of everything, the star power, the presentation, the production, the pace, little bells and whistles. Your thoughts?
Yeah, actually, I meant to say this, but I kind of forgot earlier. But the Continental Classic season might be one of my favorite periods in AEW, because I think it puts us focused to Tony Khan's booking that just isn't there necessarily the rest of the 100-something days of the year. And that's really kind of where I enjoy things most. It simplifies things to a certain extent, which is good for Tony. And it's a good buffer between other things where everything's not so extreme. You know what I mean? There's rules to the Continental Classic.
Yes.
There isn't, the prerequisite violence to everything, or the prerequisite unnecessary intensity to things. So that's why I really enjoy the Continental Classic. It's a good buffer. It's orderly. There's something at stake to it. So there is a means to the end. And I think it ultimately leads really positively to World's End, which I think it's a more anticipated pay-per-view than the previous one.
The absence of screwy finishes, the absence of blood and weapons after just an overdose of it leading into it, key factors. Another thing, and I wrote about a number of these things in the Wade Keller News Bulletin. Like we talked about Cody. There's so many matches Cody didn't have because Tony's kind of taken his time to get to him, or everyone was kind of in the Cody verse, and there's a Moxley verse, and there's the Elite group. Everyone kind of wrestles in their own group. Rusev had his little clique. I mean, you've got Max Caster and Anthony Bone doing their little thing with their group and the Guns, and like there's all these little islands of people who just come up with their own storyline ideas and they wrestle each other over and over. And that was a problem with Cody. It was an issue with Punk. I mean, a lot happened, but it would be nice to have Punk get a couple other matches in before things blew up. I guess they figured they didn't have to rush that. I think they probably felt that way about Cody too, but they should have gotten more matches in. And so the Continental Classic I wrote is a chance to actually not highlight Tony Khan's booking, but force him out of a certain zone that serves a purpose, but it's nice to have a contrast to it. And that is random novel matchups between top stars.
Okay.
And had Darby not been knocked out, we'd have had even more of them. And yes, we got some Roderick Strong, Moxley stuff. That's just a collision special on a random Saturday. But we're getting to see novel matchups of people where it's sort of inconvenient to have them against each other, but it's round robin. You got to do it. Now, the structure is with blue and gold, you can keep some people apart except for the finals or keep them apart entirely. But you're seeing novel matchups that are not a meaningless match. They have stakes, like you said, JB, but they also are just novel. You're seeing wrestlers you'd like to see against each other. And yeah, it maybe is only 15 or 18 minutes and it's a one-off, but it's a teaser of something yet to come, or it might never happen otherwise. And so it does feel like a break from the normal routine too for, a month or a month and a half.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, the Blue League is actually intriguing to me right now in the sense that I think the Claudio Mox dynamic might be a bigger part of the story than we maybe had expected, pre-tournament with kind of what they're doing at the top of the card, even though that's even considering Takeshita as the heavy favorite right now. So it adds a little bit more intrigue than I may have thought, initially going into it. And then kind of outside that, you kind of mentioned the matches that are had, but like, with, Pac and Fletcher tonight. I mean, that's the match that I think is kind of setting the table for like 2026 with maybe two top heels that you're going to push. I think Pac is right in line for a very large push. Obviously, Fletcher's been on this journey for a while now. So I think that match kind of, sets in stone that might be the direction they're going for 2026. And I think that matters, going towards the end of the year. I think, people remember that, and that's going to pay dividends, in the new year. So,
yep. Mitchell says, we never saw Cody versus his elite stablemates. That could have generated so much buzz. Ducky D goes, I'm sure Tony Khan thought he'd have Cody for more than one contract. He might have thought he would be a lifer. I know I did. Regarding AEW super serving the fans, let me, I'll throw this up. Chris Rucker says, I think AEW is popular with people who hated WWE. WWE got better, and AEW lost those hater fans. Now they're building their own fan base. Sickos plus people who just like good wrestling. And Ducky D goes, well, that's different from being confused because of assumed knowledge. I just don't see that happening. And it gets mentioned, at least in the chat, nearly every week. I think assumed knowledge is less of an issue than it used to be. Yeah. But also, I don't think Excalibur frenetically speed-talking his way through the backstory of wrestlers as a way to, quote, catch up those who haven't been following because their lives are busier. They just watch a couple hours of wrestling a weekend. It's AEW. I don't think that is not all context is created equal. And so I'd still give them a D plus C minus when it comes to a lot of this. But I do think there's something to the criticism, JB, being outdated, that there's assumed knowledge because AEW's been around long enough. Their universe is mostly their own universe now.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. And, kind of going back, things are cyclical in wrestling. So like I said, not everything can be attributed to AEW's failures. I think some things are just, natural course of things, and maybe they're being course corrected to a certain extent at this moment. But no, I agree with that. I mean, and it still exists. And I think it's definitely more of a Collision issue than it is a Dynamite issue because there's sometimes, just random wrestlers that you see every now and then on Collision that, you have no value in, and what's the point of having a 10-minute match? It's just like you said, it's just filler, which is, it's always good to see good wrestling every now and then, but you can't expect that to be appointment destination. That's going to be once every month. I'm going to tune in. You know what I mean? So. Wait, you're thinking.
Yeah, but I always get a big mute flash on the screen, so within 2 seconds I'll fix it.
I feel like I'd be part of the trend. So,
of course, yeah. It's been, actually, I broke my streak for a while. It's good to have it back, I guess. Durrell Freeman says the worst thing you can do is 100% listen to the hardcore fans in wrestling. Hardcore, aka IWC, have run off more new fans or potential fans than anything or anyone else in wrestling. I think that's too broad of a generalization. I think there's some truth in it, but I also think appealing to hardcore fans and what they want isn't the problem. I think the issue is not figuring out why the hardcore fans love it and how to invite the non-hardcore fans to appreciate it in the same way. So if people want to see Kenny Omega and Kazuchika Okada in a match, or they have a dream, Daniel Bryan want to have these dream matches, like, if you're catering to hardcore fans and you don't add anything to bring other people into that excitement, who don't know why other people are excited about it, that's a bad thing. But if you my point is, don't exclude things that hardcore fans are excited about, include them, but provide context. And that is not Excalibur's strength. Ducky D goes, I agree. Excalibur sucks. He might be AEW's biggest disappointment. Hermes says Excalibur tries to give too much information rather than being Mike Tenay and providing the necessary framework to enjoy what you're actually seeing, such as Tenay did for WCW. I will defend Excalibur. He is told what to do and how much time he has to do it. Yeah. I mean, it's not a natural skill he has. I don't think he's a great, like I talk about, if there's something I love if there's a hobby or a passion I have, and I'm at a holiday party and there's this show or there's this thing that I'm into. I'm excited and I want to bring someone into it. Excalibur doesn't seem like that's a thing. Like, he wants to talk to other people who are excited about it in the same way, but I don't think his skill set is being excited in a way that provides a kind of welcome mat for people who aren't already excited about it. Doesn't make him a bad person. It just makes him a bad fit for the aspect of AEW that's missing. And it's not just him. It's Tony Khan, Tony Schiavone. I mean, nobody has that strength to make up for the fact that Excalibur isn't good at going genuinely in an inviting way, saying to the more casual or a passionate fan who just doesn't have the same background, here is why people are excited about this, and finding a way to bring people in. I just think that's not a skill set for him. Go ahead, JB.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree. That's definitely not Excalibur's strong suit. Now, like you said, I think a bit is produced. I think Excalibur has value in his knowledge for sure, but it needs to be framed a different way, in television. And the speed talking is too much. That's Tony Khan too, though. I mean, you can't, all the graphics and things like that. I mean, I think they could do 50% less of that and people would be fine. I mean, just maybe spread it out at different points throughout the show. I feel like it's always too jammed in at different times.
Yep.
But yeah, I think Excalibur I don't think Excalibur is necessarily as bad as people make him out to be. I just think he's not necessarily put in the best positions, and that's something that they can definitely adjust, on the fly to a certain extent. I'm not, the biggest Excalibur detractor, but he definitely can be better. So
yeah, I think that's super fair. Mitchell says, I think Excalibur's lead announcer has hurt AEW as he's not good at telling stories. Raw had Jim Ross and Lawler. Nitro had Tony, Mike Tenay, and Bobby Heenan. And TNA had Mike Tenay and Don West. Excalibur is good at calling moves, and he's a little better about it, but doing a Santa laugh when a big spot is hit. Oh, look at that. And I thought he overdid that, just laughing at big spots instead of selling the violence. But, everybody has their strengths and weaknesses. But I think Excalibur isn't the ideal announcer for AEW to grow, but I think he's good enough to be a good announcer for the sickos and people who just want a guy to call the moves by their names and show enthusiasm for good matches, which he does, and that's valuable. He doesn't seem like a fake fan. Some announcers feel like they're faking it.
Yeah. For example, I know this is kind of an example of my life, but me, I'm into collegiate and Olympic real wrestling. So it's not exactly, they're even more niche than professional wrestling. But I have a friend who will be at bars and sometimes we'll actually have it put on, and he's really good at telling stories. He doesn't talk about statistics or things like that. He tells stories about, he gets people invested in these people and their journeys. And we've actually gotten like crowds of people to like bars to come like watch with us that are complete strangers to us. And that's like an innate gift. Like that must not be something that Alex Keller has for professional wrestling. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Mitchell says Joe Tess would be good in AEW. Chris Rucker says they never explained why commentators wearing a damn mask. I think Excalibur is good at calling matches, says Zach Barber. One man's voice says, I agreed. AEW has an announcer issue when it comes to getting what's important or explaining to fans what's important. So anyway,
I think Excalibur is good at calling the match. I don't think he's good at framing the match, though. I think there's a difference in that. So
I even think there's issues with his calling of the match, but I mean, but it's not his weakness, it's his strength. But I wish he was just so good at one aspect that it helped mitigate the things that are just absent or weaknesses. And even his strengths, there's something about the range of his voice when calling stuff. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to, I've said it, multiple. I mean, it's just, there's something about the tonality and the emotional range and resonance of his voice that doesn't connect in a human way that I think adds the type of drama that the great announcers had, and especially Jim Ross. And I think Michael Cole's better at that aspect. Sometimes he's obnoxious. He's dropped the stutter. He was doing the stutter for a while a couple years ago, and it was super phony. And nobody's like perfect. I mean, Jim Ross at his peak was pretty close to it in terms of calling a big match, and just the emotions were there. But there's other things in someone earlier just said, like, this is a really good year for AEW. And booking wise, and Mitchell pointed out their live attendance is down 27% this year it was down 27% in 2024 compared to 2023. But there is a lag, like in the economy, there's lagging indicators, and sometimes something is going well and it doesn't show up quite yet. I think WWE has a reverse. I think there's things they're doing wrong that they're not paying a price for yet, and they will next year unless they really correct course on things. Chris Rucker goes, AEW in 2025 has been so much better than any other year I could remember. 2024 wasn't bad once they got their footing. And then he adds, can we please talk about anything good AEW does? My goodness.
I think we do. I think we've hit some things tonight.
Yeah. By the way, Kane Play Stuff says Excalibur's a good-looking dude. He should ditch the mask. I didn't know anyone had ever seen Excalibur without a mask. I don't think there's a photo on the internet of it.
I haven't.
Yeah, so I'll take your word for it, Kane Play Stuff, but tell us where you've seen this, and send me a photo. As far as I know, he wears his mask at the bar afterwards, if he goes to the bar. All right, JB, this is where I'd go to your email. What else would you like to talk about on this show? I mean, we've touched on some things. There was a women's tag match, obviously, that we haven't gotten into. But yeah, what else is on your kind of list of talking points here?
Yeah, and so let's go actually to one positive point. I thought, Eddie Kingston had a good backstage promo today. I thought it was a good basic, feel-good wrestling promo.
Yeah, it's all I got. I got nothing else.
Falling down, getting back up. I guess his similarities to John Cena's. I know you've kind of belabored that as far as the decision last Saturday, but I'm wondering, kind of when we get Kingston hook. I thought they would kind of accelerate that, and it would be at World's End. But I'm thinking that might be further down the road now, or if not, then what does Kingston do next? Because it seems like they're trying to elevate him now since he's been not he's back. So
I loved Kingston saying, and I wish this was part of wrestling booking more. He says, I don't let one loss bother me. I learn and I move forward. I mean, to me, that's better advice than never quit. Like,
that's real advice.
Yeah. I mean, John Cena's advice, it's just not realistic. I mean, they're just like, it's trite. But like Eddie says it, and he's lived it. I don't let a loss stop me. I just, I learn and I move forward. That's inspirational. Learn and move forward. Don't fear failure. This notion of never fail, never quit. Like, no, you gotta not be scared of failure to succeed in this world. Sometimes you get lucky and succeed right away, but that is not required to be successful. You can fail a lot before you succeed, and being scared of failure is what holds people back, or letting a setback just deflate you, demoralize you. And Eddie is inspirational in that way.
Yeah, no, I agree. Eddie's a great speaker. He connects with people. Even if he's not, the most eloquent person, he has a level of connection that not everyone has. And I think he reads the room well and reads people very well, which is a good skill to have in wrestling. So,
yeah. And at least he's back to the old Kingston on the microphone. Chris Rucker says, I wanted to talk positive AEW, and y'all bring up sorry ass Eddie Kingston. LOL, I give up.
Oh, he's one of my favorites in AEW, honestly.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I get that he's a little polarizing, but I totally get him being a favorite too.
Yeah.
What else, JB?
Yeah, and this is kind of a smaller point, but I was kind of hoping, the Elite kind of reunited tonight. I was hoping, to get the entrance, Carry On Wayward's son. I thought that'd be kind of good for the overseas crowd and probably a pretty good pop, them singing along. I mean, that's a very small thing, but I think it kind of would have resonated. But then again, I know you have to pay rights fees for that. So, that's kind of a small point. I also wanted to, there's a Speedball night backstage promo too, which was very small. But I'd really kind of like what they've been doing to add more to those two characters, particularly once the C2 started during that C2. I think they've done more in the C2 for their characters and their interactions and interplay than they've done since their entire AEW run to this point. And I think it's really paying off. I actually see a lot in both of them. I think there's going to be value in them, going into 2026. So,
Speedball's utter dorky weakness on the microphone is such an asset, and it's a feature, not a flaw. I'm on a roll. I'm feeling, it's like, it's delightful. It's so different. And if he didn't back it up in the ring, it'd be one thing. If he had a lack of humility or a lack of self-awareness, but he has, I think a self-awareness of who he is, but he's also not shy to just be who he is. And I think that's what makes his character, same with Eddie Kingston. It's just, there's, John Cena can talk authentic all he wants, but like I said, I think someone who talks about how authentic they are all the time has an authenticity problem, and it's a marketing gimmick. And with Cena, I think it is. But you don't need to say you're authentic to strike people as authentic. And Speedball is authentic. That's him, and that's why he got the reaction he got, because he delivered in the ring. But a lot of people deliver in the ring and don't connect with the crowd in that way. And he had that kind of Bryan Danielson. I mean, he's not Danielson in certain ways, but I just like this guy. Exactly. And he's good, so I like him, and I get paid off with good matches. And unlike Danielson, he's not going to be a main event guy. I'm not advocating for that, but man, it's fun to have somebody like him. And then the dynamic of Kevin Knight was fun. There were a couple things, I can't remember what they were, but that were fun in that little promo. And I'm glad they sprinkled it in, because it was a show very heavy on wrestling tonight for 3+ hours. So some fun backstage segments were good.
Yeah, and I'm happy they paired those two together, because I think Speedball's rubbing off in a good way on Kevin Knight, who has a lot of potential and is younger too. I think he's giving him a little bit more natural feel.
Elaborate on that. How is Speedball helping Knight compared to where?
Because I feel like, I've only heard Knight honestly not that many times, but I feel like tonight he kind of took that natural, likable vibe that Speedball had, and it didn't feel forced either. And that's something, there's a lot. He's a great wrestler in the ring. He's only 28 years old. He had a really good showing a few weeks back, and I think they're using this tournament to elevate him, and that's the point. I think Speedball's helping that process. Even if he's not coaching, maybe some of just, that interplay back and forth is rubbing off. So,
yep. Very good. Chris Rucker says, I just can't trust wrestlers that are barefoot.
Yeah. Well, I think, what's his, Matt Riddle.
Riddle, Kevin Von Erich.
Yeah.
The Samoans. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I'm trying to think who else. I should have other names that come to mind. Anyway.
Yeah, I think that's combat sport thing, though, to a certain extent. I think
of course,
a bit of a natural feel. So
yeah,
and then I think another point I would have is we talk about you'd like to see a little bit more women presence on the show. I know in the third hour they had Jamie Hayter as well, which is good. I actually kind of like what they're doing with Jamie Hayter right now. And they really need to get her back to the top, which is I think that's a point in and of itself. But secondarily, I was expecting in the tag match, more strife between Mercedes and Athena. I was kind of expecting that to set up a TBS title match at World's End. So I don't know kind of what they're going to do there. Now at that point, if they're going to do anything, they don't necessarily have to. But then also, I'm expecting a multi-team tag for the women's titles at World's End. And I kind of hope this just isn't like a lazy booking pattern that they stick to, like the WWE tag titles for both men and women seem to be. That's kind of my perception of that match.
Covered some things, and obviously I didn't see enough of Collision, even just kind of peripherally watching it, to have too much commentary on it. Pac and Kyle Fletcher and just the Continental Classic development. Pac now has 6 points with 2 matches to go. He's tied with Bailey and Okada. Fletcher's got 6 points, but only 1 match to go. Kevin Knight's got 3 points with 2 matches to go, so we could max out at 9 points. Any surprise tonight in terms of Continental Classic developments, and did the lay of the land change at all? Zach Haydorn and I talked about different more dark horse possibilities that are actually still open, and I don't think tonight closed them. I think tonight kind of went how I expected.
Exactly.
But there are, I mean, obviously it's meticulously crafted, so there is some suspense, even if people know what's going to happen. If you don't, quote, know what's going to happen, there are paths now still for a dark horse for a Jey Uso, sorry Todd, surprising win to happen in this tournament, or at least get to the Final Four. So yeah, what do you think of the developments?
Yeah, I would say, and I touched on it a little bit earlier, but the Blue League, even though it's not as deep, is intriguing to be on top right now with what's going on there, because everyone's expecting Takeshita, but I could see something with Mox or Claudio where even Claudio gets the win somehow. That elevates or pushes forward the Death Rider story to a certain extent. I don't know what they would do there, but I could see that potentially happening. And then secondarily, I would say, obviously, to me, the Pac and Fletcher match was a toss-up. I could have really seen it go either way, but I'm kind of perfectly fine with that, how that played out. But like I said, I think someone mentioned it one of the flagships, but I think it's interesting that the dynamics between two of the biggest factions in AEW, the Callis family and the Death Riders, and how that's kind of bleeding together in the Continental Classic. I think that made good interplay. So I'm kind of glad some of the participants in that regard, even if they might not all be the biggest stars. And kind of go back to that first match with Mox and Roddy. I think they should have tied Roddy's ties in with Kyle O'Reilly and how he made Mox tap and how he had the blueprint for that. I think they should have, kind of pushed that. Well, like you said, that could have been a pre-match, preview or something like that.
Yeah, or Kyle O'Reilly giving Roderick a pep talk and coaching him and giving us an idea that maybe something will happen here.
Yeah,
do you have I think you showed this, but do you have confidence in a top four, or at least one or two or three top four options?
I still favor Takeshita Okada. I think that's the most likely.
As a final two.
Yeah, is the final two? Oh, you're talking about like final four?
No, I'm saying final four even, because you could end up with Takeshita Okada in the semifinal because they're not.
Actually, I would favor that. I would favor Takeshita Okada in the semifinal, and then maybe some advancement of that story being involved in the final, even though I know that interference and things like that aren't encouraged in the Continental Classic.
Yeah.
So that actually does make a lot of sense, and I believe that was mentioned on a previous show as well. So that makes sense. And as far as what would be the other side?
In gold, you could have. There's still room for Pac to win gold because he can end up with 12 points. And the Max Okada can end up with 12 points, and the Max Bailey can end up with 12 points, and the Max Fletcher can have it. So there's 4 people who can max out at 12. And so Pac, he was one of the guys that I thought could be, especially if they want him to be stronger when the when the Death Riders, I should say, don't have Moxley. You want Pac to look strong, not just like a good hand in the ring who did 50-50.
Exactly. So I'm going to go Pac, Mox, Takeshita Okada is the final four because there's interplay with, that makes sense from a storyline purpose. And it makes sense from a quality purpose as well. So
yeah, I think on blue, Claudio's the other option. They're not going to do, it's Tony Khan. He could do Orange Cassidy. I don't think they're going to do Dorada, and it certainly won't be Roderick Strong. So it's really just two out of which two out of the three in blue, Moxley, Claudio, or Takeshita, unless they just throw Cassidy in as a semifinalist. They're not going to do that right now.
And I think they did mention that actually Roddy's actually officially eliminated tonight. So that's going to be a story going forward as well. So. Actually,
breaking news, Roddy was officially eliminated when he was announced for it.
Oh, who already was? Well, yeah.
we just knew.
I don't think anyone, I think that'd be a pretty wild decision. But
I don't think Roddy's family was going to put money on him.
Yeah.
And then... there could be some New Japan politics that play into how they book things too. Someone in the chat brought that up. Rich Fan had brought that up in a recent week.
Yeah, because Okada's going to be in the Wrestle Kingdom, so that could affect things. So
yeah, Kelly Wells and Sean Radican talking about Wrestle Kingdom in a VIP update audio show or podcast that went up. It's going up tonight or already went up. So if you're looking for two people who know what they're talking about, giving you a primer on that's a VIP feature tonight. So on gold, you got Okada with 6 with a potential for 12. You have Bailey with 6 with a potential for 12. Fletcher with 6 with a potential for 12. Pac with 3, but a potential for 12. And I think we can write off Knight. If they're going to tell a dark horse story this year, it's not going to be Knight. It's going to be Speedball. And then Jack Perry can get 9, but they're not going to obviously he wasn't the plan going in. They're not going to augment their plans. So I guess it's Okada or Fletcher or Pac, unless you believe they might put Bailey in a semifinal just for
Speedball is a dark horse for me. I mean, if they want to do something I don't think that's crazy either. If they want to just shoot him to the moon for next year, I mean, that could make sense. But I'd really want them to make that a big deal if they did, because he would need that juice behind him. So
yep. I would be more in favor of Pac than Fletcher making it to the semis, unless they've got a really good story in mind, just for the novelty aspect. And because I just don't want Pac to feel like Brody King. He had some good matches, got some points, but he was just there to be a good hand. I think Pac has upside, but he would easily be defined down. He could it's my argument for Gunther beating Cody. It's like Gunther had more to lose than gain by beating Cody. I think he gains by beating Cody and gloating about it, no question. But the big danger is if Cena won, Gunther would have been the good hand, the second, the not top guy who the WWE management in a meta way was willing to sacrifice for Cena to have a happy ending to his career. And that defines down Gunther in an environment where clearly Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes, I mean, there's all these people who are ahead of him. You don't want to define him down. So with Pac, I feel like he's vulnerable in that way to being defined down if he loses. And, as Chris Rucker says, Pac's new gear makes him look even more of a badass. Yeah, there's something about his hair and his looking. I mean, obviously both up muscularly. Yeah. He doesn't need that, but it's part of the look. So yeah, and I Fletcher's so red hot right now. I think he can handle coming up short, and he's still going to be fine.
Yeah, he's still on his
I'm not
journey,
too worried about that.
Very much. Yeah, he's very much still on his journey. So
yeah. Adam Kidd says, I hate seeing Fletcher losing. The dude can be the guy. But Hermes says, yeah, Fletcher can afford it. I think that this could help. And just in general, Ducky Duck going, the C2 is so good. I think this is my favorite part of the AEW calendar year. And then
this is my favorite C2 to this point of all the C2s so far.
Yeah. And part of it is we just didn't get disappointed. They didn't load it up. Like the first year, I was just bitter the whole time. Like, why is this supposed to be a big tournament? You got all these, So anyway. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. JB, anything else you want to add?
Just two quick final points, and they're kind of more to the third hour, but I already touched on it a little bit. But I'd be very intrigued to see Ricochet with the Dynamite Diamond ring, to see how he can use that to be a scummy heel. I think there's value in having Ricochet up in the top mid card to visit main event when necessary. And I think the story of the ring and kind of being just a jerk about it, could add to that. So that's, of intrigue to me, as we move into next week, even though the story in of itself and the Battle Royale is stupid, but, I could ultimately have some value in there. And then finally, so FTR beat the Bang Bang Gang in the last match of the Collision episode, and really kind of intrigued to see where FTR, what's next for them, and kind of seeing when Copeland and Christian enter the picture again, because I expect them to, but it's been a while now and they haven't really touched on it like from a commentary perspective or anyone talking about it. So maybe it's a surprise at the World's End, and then they start the new year off with that feud again. But it's going to happen again at some point, I would imagine, for the titles.
Yeah. Adam Kidd so wish they'd move the C2 to the spring, eliminate the title, and make the winner get the title shot at the main event of All In. Do you like that?
I kind of like where it is now, because we're kind of in a lull of doldrums where I think this would be of so no consequence that this is kind of needed for that little extra juice. I don't hate the idea of, you could still do it now and have the winner at All In and tell that story over a longer period of time, like the Royal Rumble, and the gap between that and Mania. I don't really see much difference there, but I would keep it in this time period.
Ricochet is Zach Barber goes, Ricochet isn't winning the ring. The winner gets a men's world title shot. It won't be Ricochet.
Is it going to be Bandito then?
Yeah, that's by default. That's what Zach is saying.
Yeah.
By the way, this is your chance to throw praise to JB for his job debuting as co-host, because we're going to sign off here. So this can look bad if nobody says anything nice, but I think people will. Mitchell started it. He goes, a great debut for JB. He looks like Kevin Love.
I've been told Joe Mauer before, Wade.
Neither is insulting.
Yeah. I'll take it.
Yes.
And the paychecks. So
I'm told Excalibur looks like a combination of Joe Mauer and Kevin Love under the mask too.
Yeah, he's a little Tom Brady in there as well. So
yeah, yes, there you go. No, definitely some praise. People are excited to see you after your emails and becoming a staple on the show. I know there's some compliments for you earlier in the show too that I'm looking at here, but anyway, here, Adam Kidd, really enjoying JB's analysis, and his emails are always great. Now people are saying what you look like. I think he looks like Swizz Beats.
Don't know who that is, but I'm assuming
either.
very good looking. I'm assuming very good.
Let's just go there. Don't look it up. You don't want to. You're in a good spot. Awesome. Cool. So I said I'd throw the plug up one more time. This is it. It's my last time plugging this. Our VIP sale started in late November. We are plugging it for the final time here. Give yourself a Christmas gift. Take your wrestling fandom to the next level. You will notice the difference. You will, if you immerse yourself in our coverage, the way you're following wrestling now will stand out as something you don't want to go back to without the perspective that PWTorch VIP brings. I'll just say that. I think we see through nonsense. We don't spend time on partisan stuff, social media nonsense, SEO driven things that are blown out of proportion. I think we cover the important stuff. We do it very in depth. And bring a lot of experience and a lot of diverse perspectives, a lot of diversity to our coverage. And so much of it is behind the paywall. It's how we do what we do. We're a small business, very small business. 4 generations have earned money doing this in this family business. And you're supporting a family business when we do it. That's why we have a paywall. We don't have big corporate subsidizing or anything like that. So your VIP membership is a key to us being able to do what we do. We're offering $9 off, so you can bring your $12.99 first month fee down to $3.99 and check us out. The coupon code is NOV2025, NOV2025. And when you enter that in the coupon code box on our sign-up page, you get that $9 discount. You can apply that to a 3-month or 9-month sub. pwtorch.com/govip, coupon code NOV2025. Nearly 4 decades of access to archives, audio, newsletters, so much more. And new content on a daily basis, VIP exclusives. So we appreciate you considering it, and we'd appreciate you trying us. And again, if it doesn't work out, if it's not your thing, you don't have time, you're fine without it. Hey, you gave it a shot, and that's all we're asking you to do. So we appreciate that. Once again, JB, thanks so much. Really fun having you on. And if you will do this again, we'll have you on again, JB.
Absolutely. Love it, Wade. Thank you so much. Really enjoy everything you do. Enjoy your content, and I'm excited about the opportunity, and we'll definitely do it again sometime. So have a great happy holidays, everyone.
And don't stop doing emails if you can help it too. That's
just maybe not the next couple weeks. I'm going to be visiting family.
Of course.
Also, I do plan on writing my World's End primer actually tomorrow because I'm going to be gone the next couple weeks. So
yeah, well, you got enough to work with. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, even if it's not, we don't 100% know the see.
Well, I'm not going to do the tailgate show though. We really need the tailgate preview.
Yeah.
With the TikTok guy. So yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, JB. Thanks everyone in the chat as always. Let me glance one more time. Mitchell says, thanks Wade for always being classy and unbiased with your analysis and critiques. Ducky D says, good show as usual, guys. Thank you, JB. Please come back. Wade, you are a legend. Rude Dog says, go VIP. It's the only recurring bill I don't dread. Hashtag go VIP says Hermes. Go VIP says Adam Kidd. And Mitchell says Swizz Beats is a hip hop producer. One man's voice. Okay then. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yes. One man's voice says, well done, JB. Yeah, cool. All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you all next time.
Thanks, guys.